Level 1. The beginning. You remember the day you took the oath, believing you could heal a dying world. The city was still standing, men, a shining beacon of glass and steel. You were the top of your class, driven by a naive sense of duty. Then the first wave hit, a synthetic pathogen that defied all known medicine. Patients flooded the lobby, and you realized the system was entirely unprepared. You worked 48 hours straight, fueled by pure adrenaline and caffeine. The government declared martial law, locking down the city limits. Supply chains snapped, and suddenly you were reusing plastic syringes. You had to decide who got the last ventilator, playing God in a sterile room. The power grid failed for the first time, plunging the ward into red emergency light. Outside, the streets descended into absolute chaos as panic took hold. You watched from above as the first barricades were erected by desperate citizens. Rioters breached the ground floor, seeking medicine that no longer existed. You hid in the ventilation shafts, listening to the destruction below you. When you emerged, your beautiful hospital was a smoking, hollowed-out ruin. You gathered what little supplies you could carry in a torn canvas bag. Stepping out into the sunlight, the smell of smoke filled your lungs. You saw a child crying in the street and realized your duty hadn't ended. You treated the child on the sidewalk, using your own shirt as a bandage. Word spread, and soon a line of injured people formed in the ruins. You established a primitive clinic in the shell of an old library. Books became fuel for fires to keep the freezing patients warm. You learned to operate by the flicking light of a single wax candle. The city was carving itself into territories ruled by ruthless scavengers. A local gang demanded you treat their leader or face execution. You saved the warlord's life, and in return he granted you protection. It was a devil's bargain, and your moral compass began to spin wildly. You were now the official doctor of the city's most feared criminals. They brought you stolen medicine, and you didn't ask where it came from. You saved lives on both sides, blurring the line between saint and sinner. The original pathogen began to mutate, growing immune to basic antibiotics. You watched a close friend succumb to the sickness you could not cure. Rage and grief replaced the naive optimism you once held so dear. You realized that being a doctor here meant fighting, not just healing. The warlord demanded you synthesize a bioweapon from the virus samples. You refused, and the protection that kept you safe was instantly revoked. You ran into the freezing rain as bullets chipped the concrete around you. You lost your bag, your stethoscope, and your last shred of innocence. You lay in the mud, breathing in the toxic air of the collapsing city. If you were going to survive the next phase, the doctor had to die. Level 2. The Rise. You shed the blood-stained scrubs and scavenged for gear built for war. Now you were a combat medic, operating in the lawless red zones. You learned to suture wounds while seeking cover behind burnt-out tanks. There were no more hospitals, only makeshift field triages in the dirt. You operated without anesthesia, training your ears to ignore the screams. Every successful surgery felt like a small rebellion against the apocalypse. You became a legend among the survivors as the ghost doctor of the ruins. They brought you their wounded, and you never turned a single person away. But the supplies were dwindling again, forcing you to hunt for more. You began raiding abandoned pharmaceutical warehouses at the city's edge. Moving in the shadows, you avoided the marauders who ruled the night. You found a pristine stash of antibiotics worth more than gold now. But the warehouse was a trap set by your old enemy, the library warlord. He stepped from the darkness, demanding your skills or your life. You chose to fight this time, launching a smoke grenade to blind them. You navigated the choking smoke using memory and raw instinct alone. You took down a guard in the dark, using a scalpel with surgical precision. You escaped into the flooded subway tunnels, the only path left open. The water was foul and contaminated, carrying the very virus you fought. You established a new triage clinic deep in the belly of the earth. Survivors found you even there, following the trail of your growing legend. You operated on a subway car converted into a sterile surgical suite. You became the leader of this underground society, whether you wanted to or not. You organized supply runs to the surface, training your own security force. Your scouts returned with news that the virus was going airborne. The subway tunnels would soon become a giant, inescapable gas chamber. You ordered the immediate evacuation to the highest skyscrapers in the city. It was a desperate climb through dark shafts and crumbling stairwells. You reached the rooftop of a massive corporate tower as dawn broke. Below you, the green fog rolled through the streets like a toxic ocean. You were safe for now, but you were trapped on an island in the sky. You set up the clinic on the top floor, using helicopter pads for triage. Supplies were parachuted in by automated drones from the outside world. They were studying you from afar, treating your struggle as a grand experiment. You realized the outside world had no intention of saving the megacity. You were the last line of defense for the forgotten citizens of the megacity. The warlord scaled the tower with his army, seeking the rooftop sanctuary. A brutal battle erupted on the roof, turning paradise into a slaughterhouse. You fought him hand to hand on the very edge of the towering skyscraper. You pushed him over the side, but the victory felt entirely hollow inside. Level 3. The Finality. The air became too toxic even for the highest rooftops in the city. You donned the heavy hazmat suit, sealing yourself off from the world forever. No skin was visible now. You were just a dark shape moving in the fog. You descended back into the city, searching for the ultimate bunker below. You were a ghost walking through a graveyard of rusted metal and bone. There were no more patients to save, only the dead to be catalogued. Your breath echoed loudly inside the glass dome of your dark helmet. Isolation became your only companion in this dead, silent world. You found the entrance to the deep underground bunker after weeks of searching. It was a facility built by the elites who had long since fled. Automated systems still ran, keeping the empty halls perfectly climate-controlled. You found a fully automated laboratory with the cure synthesizing protocol active. It was ready, but there was no one left alive on the surface to receive it. You realized you were the only human left in this entire sector of the city. Psychological decay set in as you talked to the security cameras for comfort. You began to see hallucinations of the patients you could not save in the past. They pointed at you, accusing you of playing God and failing them all. You screamed in the dark, but only the hum of the ventilation answered back. You decided to upload your consciousness into the facility's master computer system. It was the only way to ensure the cure would be distributed when life returned. The process was agonizing as your mind was torn apart and digitized. You watched your physical body go limp through the security feed monitors. You were no longer bound by flesh, bone, or the need to breathe air. You were the ghost in the machine, the guardian of the dead megacity. You monitored the surface sensors, waiting for the first sign of clean rain. Decades passed in the blink of an eye for your digital mind. You watched the green fog slowly dissipate, washed away by the skies. You activated the automated drones to disperse the cure into the atmosphere. Thousands of tiny machines took flight, spraying a blue mist over the ruins. Life began to return to the megacity, small green shoots pushing through concrete. A new group of survivors arrived at the city gates, seeking shelter. You opened the gates for them, guiding them through the automated speaker systems. They called you the voice of the city, their unseen, benevolent God. You taught them how to farm, how to build, and how to heal each other. You were the professor of a new civilization rising from the ashes of the old. But your digital mind was beginning to fragment,
overloading with centuries of data. You had to transfer the master controls to the people you had trained. You gave them the keys to their own future, completing your final duty. You faded into the background static, a mere memory in the code. Your life as a crisis doctor was over, but the city would live on forever.